World Wide Web, I'm Dr. Shado, the internet personality of the best hair, and welcome back to Cybersember. Oh, who am I kidding? By the time this is done, it's going to be August. Either way, the next movie on the docket is none other than RoboCop 2. Released 3 years after the original, RoboCop 2 is not a Verhoven film. Instead, directorial duties are taken care of by Irvin Kershner, while the story and screenplay are the work of Frank Miller and Wallen Green. Though Frank Miller's original story for this movie was also drastically altered during the course of production. But hey, it was eventually released as Frank Miller's RoboCop, a comic. So what then is RoboCop 2 about? Well, it turns out OCP is even more insane and corrupt than we previously thought. However, RoboCop is on the scene and must uphold the law. That is, unless he is also brought down by RoboCop 2. And just how does RoboCop 2 intend to destroy RoboCop? Let's take a look at RoboCop 2 and find out. You open to a ne'er-do-well, silently sneaking about in a parking garage before attempting to steal one of the vehicles. But then...
Magnavolt.
It turns out it's actually a commercial. That, unlike the last movie, didn't look a fucking thing like a commercial. Point is, our introduction to the world is lethal car security systems being sold to us by Daniel Clamp himself, John Glover. Works great so long as only skinny people try to jack your shit. Moving on to the news, reactor meltdowns in the rainforest. No idea who they're supplying power to, but the Ed 209 units have been dispatched. To this one cameo that notes they still don't work all that well. The first bit of news that actually matters, though, is a new drug is on the streets. Nuke. No idea what it does, but people seem to like it, such as the maker and leader of the Nuke cult, Kane, played by Tom Noonan.
People want paradise. And they will have it.
Great. Can we get some details on it? Any at all? The only thing I'm getting out of this is Nuke's addictive, and people enjoy it. I really don't see how this is a cult. He's got followers like any drug kingpin. I mean, is he just trying to avoid Al Capone's mistake and be tax exempt? That, and reminding people that police strike happened at the end of the last movie, and it is indeed still in effect, is all the TV we need for now. It's time to establish Detroit, with people taking Nuke, running down little old ladies' grocery carts, stealing little old ladies' purses, beating the shit out of people who steal little old lady purses and stealing them again! And, of course...
You're shit with a timer, man. Come on! Come on! Go!
A random store robbery that is far more complicated than it needs to be, with explosions, a team, and a schedule. I mean, yeah, they're robbing a gun store, but this is still a bit overkill, don't you think? The idea is that chaos reigns, what with the police strike going on, but what's this? One lone patrol car is coming to the scene. No bother, they happen to sell fucking rocket launchers here, so the bad guys blow them the fuck up. Twice! And then fire so many bullets into the wreckage it blows the fuck up again! Like I give a shit. RoboCop has arrived, still played by Peter Weller. The suit's new though, fiberglass, much easier for him to move around in. Also, I like the black parts look plastic instead of rubber, makes him look more robotic. However, the metal parts also look more plastic, so yeah. The important part is he's still got VATS and tears through the goons. Not because of the robbery, mind you, but he's looking for leads on where they make Nuke. All he gets is the place the one poor sap buys his stuff, so may as well head on down there and give them a little knock on the door. RoboCop's been augmented with the powers of Girl Scouts and Mormons combined. As RoboCop enters, we see that this is in fact a drug lab, led by such important characters as Angie, played by Galen Gorg, and of course motherfucking Kane. So best to just let everyone know you're here. That way, in the ensuing shootout, Kane can be mildly inconvenienced as he still escapes with relative ease. However, there's another kingpin in here almost as big as Kane himself. Hobb, played by Gabriel Damon.
Can't shoot a kid, can you, fucker?
Why not? His 3 prime directives are serve the public trust, protect the innocent, and uphold the law. Don't give me this innocence of a child bullshit. Try his ass as an adult. Or just sit there and let him shoot you in the face and scamper off into the horizon. I know public opinion might be against you on this one, but legally speaking, I think you're in the right to blow his fucking brains out. At least Lewis, still played by Nancy Allen, doesn't put the gun down just because there's a minor present. The goon threatening the baby's life, however, does get in the way. Not to worry, one quick ricochet shot later and the kid can transform into a doll long enough to be taken far, far away from this movie. Unfortunately for RoboCop, he hasn't had nearly as easy a time letting go of his humanity. Yeah, the whole last movie was about him rediscovering it, but now he's stalking his ex-wife, and that's not a good look. OCP isn't happy, and Mrs. Murphy's lawyer isn't happy, citing continued psychological trauma brought about by the actions of this defective machine.
You're ripping her to pieces. And for what? Do you think you could ever be a husband to her?
I am equipped with a vibration function. But yeah, that human side of RoboCop he fought so hard to remember? Yeah, it's not that important. He's a robot, plain and simple. So much so, when his ex-wife comes in, Ellen, still played by Angie Bowling, he tells her it's over in no uncertain terms.
Your husband is dead. I don't know you.
I'm not crying, you're crying. But none of that matters anymore. Or it still does? Well, it's not important for the rest of the movie. Kinda depressing when you think about it. Well, something that does matter is what the old man is up to. Well, it seems in between movies he went from well-meaning businessman to evil rich bastard as he informs Mayor Cusack, played by Willard Pugh, that according to his contract with OCP, if Detroit defaults on its debt, the whole fucking city becomes just another part of OCP's private business. Considering to get to this point they forced the police to strike and have caused the deaths of countless civilians, obviously the mayor doesn't like this.
You murderers.
I'd advise you to say nothing further. It might be actionable.
It's bullshit! Bullshit, you senile old bastard!
I'm just confused by this very drastic shift in character. I mean, yeah, OCP was staffed by criminals and assholes, but the old man was really just a well-meaning businessman. At this point, I'm wondering why, when Ed 209 blew one of the board members to bits, he didn't just chuckle and deploy the damn things on the streets anyway. Either way, the old man is Mr. Burns, and Smithers is Donald Johnson, played by Felton Perry. He mentions the new face around here is Juliet Fax, played by Belinda Bauer. She's aspiring to help with the RoboCop 2 program, which has been having trouble as of late.
Stop or I'll shoot.
Hell, with enough of the company constantly breaking the law, who's to say that RoboCop 2 had it in the wrong there? I can't believe they put that one together without thinking to maybe put on shoulder-mounted homing missile launchers. That's the problem the RoboCop 2 program has been having. No, not the missile launchers, the fact that every case other than Murphy's has led to insane cyborgs with suicidal tendencies. Fax here thinks that's just the thing. Murphy wasn't just a cop. He had a specific psychological profile that made him perfect for the RoboCop program. So in order to make a RoboCop 2, they're going to need to widen their search for candidates, looking for those whom Fax believes would welcome the power and immortality at the price of their humanity. After all, cops like Duffy here, played by Stephen Lee, care about their personal relationships just a little too much. Almost as much as he cares about, getting high before work. Well, the point is cops aren't perfect. Unless you're RoboCop, that is, who has tracked down the drug-dealing deviants along with Lewis. It seems the little bastard is there, handing out Nuke left and right, or asking for payments when it comes to specific plot-relevant clients.
Better have something to give me this time, officer.
One cop per car. Okay, these are the routes.
But as it turns out, the cop we were just introduced to who happens to be a bad guy just so happens to be a bad guy. Jesus, this plot's got all the subtlety of an episode of the Power Rangers. And all the weirdness like kids who look Disney Channel clean, pushing drugs on unsuspecting middle-aged men. Or suspecting, but for some reason farting around the idea after already paying for the shit. No more time for indecisiveness. RoboCop and Lewis have moved in to break up this drug den. But it's still the first half hour of the movie. That means the damn kid somehow overpowers Lewis and damn near kills her, as it takes everything she has to shake the bastard, giving him the chance to run away. At least after Robo beats the shit out of Duffy, he does squeal on the dealer's hideout.
River Rouge, the old sludge plant.
Ah, the abandoned factory district. Why the hell didn't we think to check there earlier? Thus they head out at once. Or wait for sunrise. Either way, RoboCop has arrived and makes his way into the factories, searching. Not for Mother Teresa, Jesus, Elvis memorabilia, or Elvis his damn self, which are all present for some reason, but for that bastard Kane. Man, that aim assist is something else. So RoboCop could just shoot the motherfucker and be done with it, but it's too easy, so he gets his hand blown off. Again, the bad guys get the drop on RoboCop utilizing the mysterious power of magnets to render him helpless. Then it's just a matter of a long, awkward, and apparently very difficult teardown, which probably would have been an even better solution to their RoboCop problem had they not just dumped the parts back at the police station.
Man, just look at it.
Christ, he's been stripped.
No, they returned all the pieces. They didn't rob RoboCop of his nuts and bolts or anything like that. And besides, with him all laid out like this, the puppeteering is beautiful. I mean, yeah, Murphy's face looks a lot less human, a lot more robotic, but, unsurprisingly, that really works in this movie. The news goes from bad to worse, as evidently RoboCop's been totaled. Yeah, he's technically still barely alive, but, actually fixing him would be very, very expensive, so why bother? Of course, he's not the only one having a bad day. Remember Officer Duffy? Well, Kane certainly does. He remembers all about all those deals they made with, of course, express instructions to not reveal their hideout to the police. The, other police. As he has failed at this task, he must be punished. How about a happy little game of IRL Surgeon Simulator?
You said you were just gonna scare him!
Doesn't he look scared?
Such a tragic end for poor Duffy. When we met him, he was corrupt and inept, but by the end, well, not every character needs an arc. Well, some characters do at least reveal themselves a little slower, as news that Fax is screening death row inmates as potential candidates for the RoboCop 2 program gets Smithers very worried, up until Mr. Burns points out that having a rampaging psychotic killing machine on the loose is a good thing. It'll help make Detroit go bankrupt all the better. With that in mind, they still have that first RoboCop to put back together, but that doesn't mean they have to put him back just as they found him.
He's become a role model for our children. Now what are we teaching them?
You have a point.
If he just talked things out with people instead of firing that big gun of his.
RoboCop returns. He's back, and he's asking politely for you to stop. So yeah, they're rebuilding the guy, along with more than a little reprogramming. Which brings about quite possibly the most entertaining part of the whole movie, as Reprogrammed Cop is a chipper, positive-thinking Saturday morning hero and a half.
How you feeling, Murphy?
I'm just fine, Warren. Thank you for asking.
And this actually reminds me quite a lot of the Sledgehammer episode Hameroid. It's probably because that episode was based on RoboCop, but I'd say this is actually a bit funnier. Probably because that was season 2 of Sledgehammer. Also, they don't waste the opportunity to have fun with this, as RoboCop and Lewis head out, and lo and behold, a store is being robbed by a Little League team. Well, that is a team-building exercise, I guess, but while Lewis swoops in and takes out the coach, Murphy is considerably less effective at dealing with the situation.
You are under arrest. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law.
Okay, I can't be the only one who really wants to see that case on Judge Judy. While Lewis has a little difficulty pulling RoboCop away from the sweet embrace of death, she still trusts him to deal with the juvenile delinquents, which he does by talking to them in inspirational bumper sticker slogans.
And now, a word on nutrition.
Jed, he's fucked up.
Bad language makes for bad feelings.
Oh, well, fuck me then. The kids just say fuck it and run off, which RoboCop does nothing whatsoever to stop. At this point, Lewis is certain that OCP did something evil to RoboCop, even if he swears he's okay.
Isn't the moon wonderful tonight?
It's still daytime.
It's the thought that counts.
Well, I think that the toaster's been plotting against me, and conspiring with the unreliable thermostat. The problems only continue when RoboCop stops the car to stop those damn kids from wasting city water on something as silly as fun. Which is actually a good thing to do, but he words it so ridiculously, none of them get the message anyway. However, there is a deviant afoot.
Thank you for not smoking.
This was actually used as an anti-smoking message in non-smoking theaters for a while. One reason why, even if you haven't seen this movie, you probably already know that line very well. If, like me, you wanted this to continue for the rest of the movie, too bad. We immediately find out that OCP has loaded RoboCop with hundreds of new directives, causing this odd behavior, but after musing that maybe they can be reversed if the cyborg gets electrocuted, RoboCop gets right the fuck up, heads over to the electrical box, and fries the fuck out of his firmware. This results in the deletion of all his prime directives. Interestingly enough, this does nothing to dull his sense of duty.
Are we cops?
What's bugging you, Murph?
Kane. Kane's bugging me.
Always bugging me. To stay a while and listen. It seems RoboCop's desire to see Kane brought to justice is enough to get the picketing police officers to say fuck this strike and go forth to do their jobs. This results in a reasonably awesome action sequence, as it seems Kane never thought to relocate after the police found out where he was, and he left RoboCop off to get fixed. Either way, the general police officers can have some tense back and forth with the gang. Cult, while RoboCop practices the art of looking in the opposite direction he's shooting in, just to show off. Eventually, Kane tries to make a run for it, only for RoboCop to stubbornly cling to his getaway vehicle like the annoying arm of the law that he is. As if this movie is in need of more cliches, the confrontation eventually ends in a game of chicken. A terrible idea on Kane's part, as RoboCop obviously doesn't need to steer out of the way, and indeed, he doesn't, bashing through the windshield to apprehend Kane, now in very, very critical condition. And now a word from our sponsor.
They say 20 seconds in the California sunshine is too much these days. Ever since we lost the ozone layer.
Yes, RoboCop 1 had commercial parodies that worked as social commentary, but that's just the thing. First and foremost, they were commercials, and then had some social commentary put in there. These are ham-fisted social commentary bits that after the fact try and weasel their way into looking like a commercial, which means they don't fucking look like commercials. What fucking commercial sounds like this? The Nuke game in RoboCop 1, commercial didn't start out like, you know, the threat of global thermonuclear war looms closer than ever, but that shouldn't get in the way of family game night. Anyway, she's selling Sunblock 5000, SPF out the ass, and the planet's fucked. Have a good day. Back with shit that actually matters, Kane is still alive. Not that he would want to be, as Fax has arrived, and thinks her search for the perfect candidate for the RoboCop 2 program has finally come to an end.
I'm afraid we lost our patient. Yep, he just expired. Contact the organ harvest team, make it fast. We've got 6 minutes before the brain's useless.
In case you haven't been paying attention, Fax's brain really isn't that great to begin with. Fuck it, the movie needs an Act 3, and therefore Kane's brain is drained and his future is in chains. The future of the city, however, is less cut and dry, as Detroit's bankruptcy is being held off the only way they know how. A telethon! It seems, though, the remaining Nuke cult has called up the mayor with a deal that could keep the city out of OCP's ever-growing list of private enterprises. However, when OCP hears about this, they worry such an upset could negatively impact the value of their stocks.
There's another option. We certainly have the surveillance capabilities to follow the mayor. It all depends on how far we're willing to go.
Hell, Dick murdered a guy to prove a point in the last movie, and you have been leading to the deaths of people left and right all movie here. I'm pretty sure you could just say, kill the motherfucker. How does she intend to pull this off? Well, RoboCop 2 is just about ready, with Kane's consciousness represented by state-of-the-art 1990s CGI. His brain powering the bot has its downside, though, as he is addicted to Nuke. However, Fax uses this angle to convince him to work for her in order to get his fix. What work, you ask? Well, after the mayor goes to meet up with the Nuke cult, gang, whatever, the fucking kid who's running the place and willing to bail Detroit out if he'd be oh so kind as to not come after the drug labs, this happens.
What the hell is that?
The physical manifestation of how I felt when I realized that you would be a very important recurring character all movie. Sadly, he's still semi-important going forward, it seems. Robo-Kane fucking unloads on everyone in the room, killing every last one of them without sufficient plot armor. Even when he finds his old fling begging for her life, a small moment of electric dreams is the best she's gonna get before he grabs her by the face, throttling her like an overheated CPU. Still, somehow the little brat gets away, so by the time RoboCop arrives, all he finds... Wait, when the fuck did that happen? If you're gonna kill the kid, don't show him escaping only for him to be mysteriously killed while off screen. But he's not dead. Just dying, slowly, so he and Murphy can have one last heart-to-heart in a vain attempt to make me like this character.
I'm gonna die. You know what that's like, don't you? It really sucks.
Oh, watch this turn out to just be an awkwardly directed commercial for life insurance. The point is, Kane is so evil that even this poor innocent child was killed. His old friend and drug kingpin, but nobody's perfect. Take Kane, for example. He was sent out here to kill the mayor, but that guy's still kicking. Despite this, OCP hasn't slowed down their ceremonial acquisition of Detroit, and is even flying a flag. A red flag. White circle. Black symbol in the middle. Subtle. Despite that obvious reference, they still let the mayor march on stage and talk about how they won't get away with this, but who cares what he thinks? They have all the muscle to get New Detroit off the ground right here.
I give you RoboCop 2.
I think the mayor just realized he used his last bit of plot relevance before sitting down. But he continues to sit there. Don't worry, it's not the stupidest thing anyone's doing. The old man decries the terror Nuke has brought on Detroit by holding up an industrial-sized tube of the stuff, resulting, predictably, in RoboCop 2 saying, "Fuck it, give me the stuff!" RoboCop 1 also shows up to pick a fight with the mad bot, but it's not like OCP can't learn from its mistakes. Fax deactivated its weapons already. Jesus, they're not very good at their jobs, are they? RoboCop 1 couldn't arrest any OCP members because he was programmed not to be able to. RoboCop 2, fuck it, let's put a psychotic brain into a killer machine and just hope he keeps obeying orders. This means the final climactic showdown is underway. A hell of a knockdown drag-out brawl between RoboCop and Robo-Kane. It's over 10 minutes of action sequence between the two of them, checking all the tick boxes. The elevator shaft, the cliffhanger, the boiler room brawl, and of course a street shootout with the rest of the police force, where the secret to defeating Robo-Kane lies, of course, in his addiction to Nuke. What it even does, I still don't know, but it means RoboCop can mount the mechanical monstrosity and rip his fucking brains out! Which seems to hurt. Which is kind of odd. You'd think, rip brain out, dead robot. But this is a House of the Dead style final battle. Sure, his brain isn't in his body anymore, but for some fucking reason it still needs to be destroyed before he's really dead. Therefore, happy ending! Robo-Kane is dead. And OCP, well, they've got bad press to worry about, but Smithers thinks he knows an easy out they can utilize.
What if this was all the work of one individual, a person who had her own agenda that wasn't in sync with the goals of our company? Well, that usually works.
So, not happy ending? Well, fuck it, it's an ending and I'm happy. So, anyway, that was RoboCop 2. And it's not RoboCop 1, but I've seen far, far worse movies. RoboCop 2 is a fun ride, with nice action, very impressive effects for the time, and a simple enough story to follow, that's stretched over 2 hours for some reason, but hell, the climactic battle was a good 10 minutes, so that's gotta count for something. The big change here is the feel of RoboCop 2. RoboCop 1 had real depth to the presentation, where it was depressing subject matter and tragic situations, but with enough satire to keep the movie lighthearted and fun when it needed to be. RoboCop 2? It's lighthearted and fun. The feel is the same on a superficial level, but the tragic nature of the first movie is almost entirely absent. Subtlety is also gone this time around, from the painfully phoned-in commercial bits to how OCP itself is depicted. In RoboCop 1, we see well-known public services being privatized, and get to know how even with well-meaning businessmen behind it, privatization has a dark side, and profit motives don't always have the public's best interest in mind. RoboCop 2? OCP are literally Nazis. The end. Then we get to the characters and, well, it's hard to say if they're even good or not. Lewis is a fine character, but doesn't do much of anything all movie. Kane is a bad guy. His girlfriend is his girlfriend. And the kid is also a bad guy. Possibly the worst guy. It all comes off like a weirdly graphic episode of Power Rangers. It's not that there's a lack of scenes to flesh these guys out, they just don't have any flesh to begin with. At the end of the day, though, RoboCop 2 is a fun movie. Like I said with RoboCop 1, they could just have it be a montage of RoboCop killing bad guys and it would work pretty damn well on its own. Well, that's practically what they did here. And it does, even if it has pretty much nothing to say other than how cool it is to see RoboCop do cyborg gun kata on drug-dealing, crime kingpin, cultist, Nazi bad guys. So, RoboCop 2 comes in at 3 entirely plot-relevant but not fleshed out whatso-fucking-ever vials of miscellaneous drug number 23 out of 5. Though, would I have liked it more or less if the entire damn movie was reprogrammed RoboCop? Fuck if I know. Thank you all for watching. I've been Dr. Shado. And remember, bad language makes for bad feelings.
He's like a shadow. He's like a shadow. He's like a shadow.
The internet personality with the best hair.
He's like a shadow. He's like a shadow. He's like a shadow.
The internet personality with the best hair.
Isn't the moon wonderful tonight?
It's still daytime.
It's the thought that counts.